Is fiber really this healthy thing we've been told our whole lives, or did scientists get it wrong? And it's actually better to avoid fiber. There's a study people often bring up on social media that looks at 63 patients. It's what we call a case series. And these were patients that were severely constipated. They had bloating, they had pain, they strained when they defecated, they went several days without being able to do it, and they even had anal bleeding when they did it. So real difficulty, a real strained process of defecation. And these patients were actually told to reduce the fiber in their diet, or even to remove all fiber from their diet. And lo and behold, they overwhelmingly reported improvements. Less pain, less strain when it was time to evacuate, easier to defecate with a bit more frequency, and even less anal bleeding. So people often look at this case series and ask if this means that fiber is unhealthy, and it's actually a better idea to avoid it. Well, it depends. These patients, every single one of them, was on a high fiber diet. They had, of their own initiative, they had increased the amount of fiber in their diets, and some were even taking fiber supplements, which is exactly what anyone would do if severely constipated. The first thing we would all do is increase fiber or take fiber supplements. But these patients were still constipated. That's why they sought medical attention. So increasing the fiber didn't help. It didn't solve the issue. Fiber is great for constipation if everything's working normally, if the gut is working normally. But if there's a motility issue, issues with the contraction of the gut muscles, so the defecation process doesn't happen normally, then increasing the bulk upstream of the blockage, upstream of the problem, by adding more fiber can actually make things worse. These conditions, these defecation disorders, where the muscles of the rectum aren't properly coordinated, they don't contract in the normal synchrony they're supposed to function in, they have names like Dyssynergic defecation, and they're surprisingly common in chronic constipation. And in this setting, reducing fecal bulk can actually make defecation easier, because reducing the volume of the feces reduces the strain and the pain that these people feel. This has nothing to do with fiber being bad for human beings. There's all kinds of disease situations where we apply restrictions of things that are perfectly healthy for most people. If you have a sprained ankle, your doctor is going to tell you to rest, to not run, to not walk on it. And that's going to improve things. You're going to feel relief. It's going to allow your ankle to heal. That doesn't mean that exercise is bad for all humans. It means you had a specific condition, a specific disturbance with your ankle that you need to address, they need to fix before you can use your ankle normally and exercise and reap the benefits of exercise like everybody else. People with specific conditions, infections, or GI issues, sometimes they're put on a liquid diet, so 0 solid foods for a while. And in some conditions, it can help heal. They can feel better. Does that mean eating is unhealthy for humans? All solid foods are unhealthy? Of course not. It's a specific pathological context. So we have to be very careful extrapolating from restrictions and interventions that we apply in a disease context to all humans, and especially a healthy population. We have decades of science and hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, showing that people who eat more fiber have lower blood pressure, lower body weight, lower cholesterol, lower risk of heart disease, lower risk of diabetes, lower risk of cancer, lower risk of dying overall. But if you have a specific condition in your GI tract, you're unable to move the mass along normally, you're unable to evacuate without huge strain, then reducing the bulk, including reducing the amount of fiber in there, can provide relief. So this is the realization, this is the light bulb moment, right? Decades of science and hundreds of thousands of people don't deny the experience of these 63 people. It doesn't mean that their experience isn't real. And this case study in 63 people doesn't invalidate decades of science and hundreds of thousands of people, right? It's not a fight. Fiber and fiber-containing foods can be extremely healthy for most people, and yet for some people with a specific condition, reducing the fiber can provide relief. There's no contradiction. Both can be true. In a perfect world, we want to fix the underlying condition so you can go back to eating whatever you want, a diet of your choice. Just like we fixed the sprained ankle so you can go back to having physical activity and living a normal life. So we got to be extremely careful not to confuse symptomatic relief with cure. Just because pain goes away or is reduced doesn't mean we fixed the underlying issue. If I'm not able to eat a normal diet, the issue is still there. I'm just masking it with the restriction, but I haven't addressed the underlying cause. So how do we fix the underlying cause? That's the million-dollar question. It depends on what exactly the issue is. So the first step is to diagnose it properly and then to figure out a course of action. With some motility issues in the gut, physical therapy can help. There are biofeedback types of therapy where people can overcome or greatly improve these defecation issues. Another common condition that can also cause constipation is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And we have a whole video on IBS going over the causes and ways to address it and resolve it. As someone who's had close family members that suffered with these conditions and saw how painful it was and how liberating it was when they were able to overcome this, it's worth it. It's a hassle. I'll be the first one to tell you we had to knock on a lot of doors. If we didn't find the answers we needed in the first or the second, or maybe even the third doctor that we talked to, but eventually we did, and it was all worth it 1,000,000 times. I'll link all of those videos in the description for you guys to check it out. Here's one specifically on IBS, and here's more on fiber intolerance and how to overcome it. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.